All right. What is up, Sydney? Tell us who you are.
Hey, my name is Sydney Jones. I am a full-time professional. I work as a senior customer success manager. I love my job. So,
Okay, absolutely. So, Sydney, I want you to give them a little bit of insight into where you started before we started working together versus where you ended up after we started working together.
yeah, absolutely. So, I believe like during the COVID era, I think about late 2023.
23, 22.
I
Yeah.
think it was either 20, yeah, 2023 is when I had a full-time job. I was working as a technical recruiter, a senior technical recruiter. And so I was placing a lot of jobs, but my specific department went through a shift in their business and had a budget cut, um, taking me out of the market, like taking me completely, it was completely last notice. I only had 2 weeks after getting laid off. And from there, it has been a journey of just continuously trying to find a source of income, a job in the market, especially after COVID. It was kind of hectic. So definitely spent a lot of time over the past year and a half of just looking for a job, seeking guidance, trying to make sure I'm not lowballing myself because in the midst of not having a job, you still have a family to take care of. So it's like, do I lowball myself and get something below where I'm used to just to take care of my family, or do I stand my grounds and just take, charge of what I deserve as somebody who's good at what they do? So I toggled around for a while, just trying to figure out how to get a job. I was applying to over hundreds and hundreds of jobs, got interviews, would get interviews, and probably get to the second or third, and not end up getting the job. So it just took a lot of learning, developing, and that's why I came to Jada, because I'm like, Jada, okay, what am I doing wrong here? What can I do to set myself up to become more of a value add to their company? And she just changed my complete outlook on how to show up in interviews, how to deliver value to the actual company, and more so just standing out from the rest of the candidates.
So, Sydney, right now you're a senior customer success manager. How long did it take you from our initial conversation of you saying, girl, if you don't help me get this job, help me ASAP. Like I need some help. How long was it before that phone call to you actually getting a job offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that conversation, we had a really long conversation, probably about an hour long conversation, just kind of helping me set myself up. Like I said, you really opened my eyes to a lot. And from that conversation, she taught me how to network. She taught me how to deliver value, how to really get through interviews. And literally by the next week, I think we talked on like a Thursday.
Yeah.
And then that Wednesday, I was like, yo, I got a job interview. And from there, I had the first interview, the second interview the next week, and the same week the third, and they offered me the job that next week. So it only took me like 2 weeks to fully get accepted into a role and get that
Okay.
role.
Okay, 2 weeks. So let me ask you this question. What was different in that 2 week period versus when you were already applying to hundreds of jobs, you was interviewing, you were doing all of that stuff. What were you doing differently in that 2 weeks than you were doing previously?
Yeah, I think that times are changing. We are in a completely different life, industry where you're no longer trying to sell that you can do the job. Your
Hmm.
resume can show that you can do the job. I think what differentiated things from before to now is how to stand out in the scope of not being able to just to do the job, but how are you becoming a value add? So really focusing on delivering value through my core competencies, my skills, my transferable skills, and really speaking into that value versus just speaking into, yes, this is what I did in my previous job. I know how to do it here. And so a lot of times companies are no longer looking for people to actually do the job. They're looking for people who can own the job and own the actual position. And so my whole change in how I spoke about the role, my pride for that role and taking ownership of that role is really what changed it for me. And from there, it's just open up. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta have that girl.
Absolutely. Okay, so you said something valuable. One of the things that you said was transferable skills. So, what are some of the transferable skills that you had that you were able to transfer into this new role that you currently have?
That's a good question. So a lot of my knowledge and my passion is in like process development, anything optimizing success, like processes, back end, because the operational systems are the core of how businesses are ran. And so when it comes to a customer success role, you're actually helping a client become successful and product adoption, making sure you're really good at client communication, building relationships with them. So understanding systems enough to know how to move the needle in their business. So a lot of transferable skills that I focused on was client relationship, process optimizations. How can I help you become more strategic in the way that you do business? And so those are kind of some of the things that I spoke mostly in my interviews.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, Sid. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I have. Well, I have one more question. What would you say to somebody who was trying to ask themselves, dang, like, should I actually work with Jada? Should I actually pay the $44 to get into the community? Should I actually pay her, for the one-on-one coaching? What would you say to somebody who is like teeter-tottering, they don't really know if they want to do it or not?
Yeah, I will always say know her story, like her story and understanding how she got to where she is. I've known Jada for quite some time now, even before she got into the tech industry. So I know the things that she's been through, and I know how she was able to really have like get into the role that she's gotten and how she got into tech. And so a lot of times when you're looking at for people for help, you want to see if they have that same conviction. Do they even understand where you are right now? Jada has
Thanks.
that story. Like I think both of us both had kind of been through the trenches of just trying to figure out who we are, what do we want to do, after just previous ventures in our lives. And it's just like you have to have a leader, and wherever you want to go, if you have a goal and you need somebody to get you there, you want to look for the people who have real conviction, like real stories behind why they do something and how they were able to get from point A of, not being able to get a job or figuring out who they are, what they want to do, to actually being in the role and being successful in the role. So that's one thing I really commend about you, is that you've always been a go-getter. And if there's anything that you needed to do fast, you were going to figure it out. And so I think that was the driving force of just all success for you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sid. I hope y'all got some value listening to Sydney's story. Hey, y'all, Sydney's got a lot of great things going on. So if y'all run across her on the net, make sure y'all tap in with my girl. Thank you, Sydney.
You're welcome. All right. Bye bye.